Hi, and thank you so much. I'm Leyla Acaraglu, and I'm very happy to be with you here today, sharing insights and ideas on how we can bring sustainability into the DNA of our organizations. Now, sustainable development has been around since the mid-80s. It's a very ambitious goal of harmonizing the social, environmental, and economic impacts of a company, an industry, so that we can make sure that the decisions we make today don't have negative impacts on the ability of future generations to live the same, if not better, quality of life than we live today. It's really an aspiration for ensuring that the future, it's always better than what we've lived in today. I think we can all agree that it's important to ensure that we address some of the big pressing environmental and social issues of our time, especially when we have things like climate change and now the economic impacts of COVID-19. The reality is we live in what's called a linear economy, entirely based on the extraction of raw materials out of nature, processing these into usable goods, and then ending up wasting these, whether it be in landfill, escaping into the natural environment, in some cases incineration. But a lot of the time the issue is that we're losing value throughout the economy. This costs us in multiple ways. We lose the materials and then we create the problem of waste. Now, the solution proposed to this is the circular economy. It's about transforming the way we do all business, the way we design products and the way we deliver them to customers to ensure that there's no end-of-life impacts. So we design right from the start to completely eliminate waste. This also is about ensuring that there are new ways of delivering products and services in the economy, new materials, new processes. So it's really about innovation. Now, let's look at some of the drivers. I've actually just finished a really extensive report on this decade of disruption that we're living in that you can grab online. I'll have a link in a moment. This report looks at the different mega trends that are affecting this decade and the drivers that are influencing sustainability as a core business decision-making tool. It was partnered with Unily, and you can grab that online. But what we looked at was, what are the driving forces disrupting the workplace and the way we do business? And I found some really fascinating things. For example, we understand that there are all of these mega trends that are at play at the moment, climate change being one of them, COVID-19, as well as things like risk mitigation. And these are ultimately breeding these new ways of doing things, addressing the green recovery, which we know is very much about investing in responsible companies, new types of energy, and green jobs. We're looking at Industry 4.0, the use of technology to have very adaptive feedbacks. And these are all interacting and mixing together. So what we've got is things like the rising concern around pollution, whether that be pollution, air pollution, and its death of over 9 million people every year, or ocean plastic waste, and how that's driving not only policy decisions, but of course, material innovation, and ultimately the change of business to kind of recapture those products and reuse them at the end of life. So we're also seeing a lot of this movement around supply chain equity and sustainability as well. Now, these fit into the ambitious goals laid out in 2015 by the United Nations, known as the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. And what's fascinating about these 17 goals is that there's a lot of action around them. I think they've really provided a clear understanding for companies, for decision makers, on what needs to happen. And so we're seeing a lot of corporate uptake. And the SDGs, one of the most incredible things about them is that it's all about figuring out how we can live on the planet, we can prosper, and we can do so in ways that have positive impacts back to the world around us, to the environment, and to people. Now, in the height of this very complicated era we're living in now with the COVID-19 pandemic, we did a survey as part of this report where we looked at 2,000 workers in the United Kingdom, asking them what was of interest to them as a result of it. And we found that a lot of people were interested in getting more information about the actions their company was taking about the environment, but also getting more skills and training and being able to do more sustainability motivated actions themselves. This connects with a growing trend around millennials and their desire to work for companies that have a value aligned with their own value set. And I'm sure if any of you have kids, you know that a lot of young people are very concerned about their future, not only the economic opportunities because of this crisis, but also what kind of world they're going to live in with climate change. If you're interested in assessing where your company is at, I designed a diagnostic toolkit as part of this report, which you can grab here, which basically helps you understand, based on some simple questions, where you're currently at on the sustainability journey and what steps you can take to move to the next level. And this is obviously important because there isn't just the demand from customers, there's the demand from workers within organizations, there's also the regulatory demand, and then there's just the reality of the fact that resources are becoming more difficult to extract, more expensive. We're seeing a lot more activism. We're also seeing the reality of climate change affecting the ability for agricultural systems to be relied on, the supply chain, disruptions from COVID-19. All of these things come together to create a real motivation for action. Now, climate change is a massive disruptor. It is causing significant impact. We know the wildfires in California, in Australia, the heat waves in Europe. These are all affecting daily lives, but also it's making it harder for people to work. It's more costly to produce goods and services, whether it be materials or to ensure that infrastructure is protected. So the impact of climate change is very real, and there is obviously the motivation for organizations to take action, but there's also the global agreement that we need to move forward with over 185 countries signing the Paris Agreement. So that's going to have trickle-down effects as well, meaning that different governments around the world are making sure that their companies are adhering to their obligations. Now, there's also the drivers around just general higher quality service provisions to customers. We're seeing that customers are definitely demanding more environmental and ethical responsibility from the companies that they're investing in. And, we don't have to look very far past the news to know that we have a lot of environmental issues that we're facing. Now, there's a science that connects the COVID-19 pandemic to ecosystem destruction and climate change from Harvard University. So we know that unless we make really significant choices as leaders, as providers of goods and services in the economy, then this will continue to happen. So what I really think is interesting about this is the proposition of the circular economy is to find ways of designing things to fit within either the natural cycle or the technical cycle. And so if you're in agriculture, for example, your products can be digested back into the natural environment. Whereas if you're in, the apparel sector using polycotton blend with other materials, then you have to consider how that technical product can be recaptured, reused, remanufactured. So we're closing the loop at all points. It's a journey as well. There aren't necessarily single solutions that you can come up with immediately. And I want to share with you some of the leaders who are really taking action. One of the most inspiring things for me is the organizations who set really ambitious goals and then work backwards to find ways of solving them. Let me give you a little bit of an overview of the decisions that you need to make in order to reduce the impact of your business actions and operations. At the operational level, you're buying energy, you're creating pollutions through waste and also through perhaps water leaving, whether it be an office building or a factory. And there's infrastructure as well as procurement and ultimately travel. These are the operational impacts of your organization. Now, you probably produce products as well, and so therefore you have to consider materials, supply chain, sourcing, packaging, the retail environment, the use of the product, and ultimately the end of life. And then in the experiential side, which is the service offering that you provide your customers, you have a lot of touch points where you can engage, you can communicate, as well as you can help direct the way people engage, not only engage with the products, use them, repair them perhaps. The circular economy as an overarching concept is really about, as I said, eliminating waste, but it's also about transforming the way we deliver goods and value into the economy. So by understanding the basic operational impacts and doing an audit on the way that you are conducting your operations, and then getting that baseline to then be able to develop policies and procedures will help you adhere to the corporate responsibility that every company now is being asked to do, that is reporting on the actions that you're taking to help ensure that you are a positive corporate citizen. Now, tools like life cycle thinking are very useful for when you're doing product redesign, as well as the idea of circular systems design. These are all concepts that I don't have the time to go into very significant detail, but as I said, we have developed a new program that helps organizations of any size integrate sustainability into their DNA, providing checklists, all of the policy format, resources. If you're interested, you can use this QR code, scan it, and you'll be able to find those different programs for advancing your sustainability journey. Now, we also see that there are many other trends that are happening, such as green jobs, green collar jobs, whether it be in the renewable energy sector or the circular economy, supply chain scientists looking at how to create fully digestible materials. There is so much opportunity for innovation and change right now. It's really about understanding where you're at and where you need to go in order to become a better corporate citizen. Now, to the case studies I mentioned, we have IKEA, the world's biggest furniture manufacturer, committing to not only be fully circular, but to also being carbon positive, which means that they're going to buy back all of the carbon that they've emitted into the atmosphere in their productions and redesign their products and services to be within that circular economy framework. They've done great jobs at redesigning their experience as well. Many of the food offerings within the store environment have more sustainability criteria involved as well. Then you have Unilever, partnered with TerraCycle in the US to develop a global initiative called Loop, which is a system where you can sign up to get your household items delivered in reusable packaging. That's partnered with different supermarkets. The packaging is designed to be washed once they take it back and refilled. And then because it's a loop, you basically keep getting the products delivered, they go back, they get refilled, so you've really dramatically minimized waste. This is being rolled out globally at the moment. Another great one is Scotland. There's a beer company that is using old bread from local bakers to create actual beer. And in Portugal, you have Lemon Jelly, which is a shoe brand that has recently looked at minimizing the impact of their products by taking all of their waste off the factory floor and converting that into these shoes that then they will also take back and recycle at end of life. What I like about this brand is that they're also really trying to have a conversation with their customers and really build change and momentum over time, which I think is one of the key things. You know, there's a lot of regulation that is now coming into force, but most businesses don't want to respond to regulation. They want to be proactive. And so we're seeing from the financial sector the requirement for reporting on environmental, social, and governance, ESG. We're also seeing customers demand zero waste. This idea of moving to a completely disposable, post-disposable future, looking at how products can be designed to be taken apart and recaptured, recycled. These are all part of this broader change that is underway. And of course, my favorite, which is systems thinking, seeing your organization as being part of a larger community of individual organizations making change. You know, it's important to ensure that you have the knowledge to not accidentally greenwash, which we have seen happen. But thankfully, because there is a lot of momentum, there's a lot of benchmarking and case studies and an opportunity to find ways of really transforming the way you do business. Circularity is not going away, climate change is not going away, but the opportunities to use these influences as drivers for innovation is huge. You just need the knowledge and the desire to see the change happen, and from that, wonderful things will happen. So I hope that your organization is one of those willing to pioneer change this decade, and I look forward to hearing more about the successes that you have in the future. Thank you.